Y'all, man, we're back for part 3. For new, hit that like button, subscribe, and share, man. Let's get into this part 3.
I don't even like sports. I used to come up there and just watch Shorty. You feel me? Shorty got nothing to do with nothing. I think he was like 10, 11 at the time. You feel me? And they just shot through the gate, shot. You gotta see the street, bro. The street here, it's a sidewalk, a gate, a grass, and they just shooting through that bitch and shot Shorty.
The very next day after Bebe's murder, Barron would post on Facebook, swearing to avenge his death. The police, on the other hand, didn't immediately have suspects, but with the help of their informant, Neef's brother Keith Daniels, they would eventually find out that 3 members of the AV were allegedly behind the shooting. Cess's brother, Jamal Streeter, Cess's boyfriend, Aramis Beecham, and another man named Vito Richmond. The real target of the shooting had allegedly been Barron due to his close affiliation with Welch World, and Tay would later even respond to rumours in a 16-shot interview that he had been the target of the shooting, even though he was locked up at the time of the incident.
It looked like some people probably tried to kill you or something like that, and end up a baby end up dying or something like that.
Yeah, bro, I wasn't even out. That's when Cess brother and Baby Daddy, one of Baby Daddy, they supposed to shot up a park or something and killed the little boy, little raw ass little hooper, little baby, raw as hell, you feel me? But I wasn't even out. I was locked up.
Oh, so that was like a rumor what they were saying?
Yeah, I went out.
A few days after the shooting, Daniels would hear the AV members talking about the events and passing around a gun that had allegedly been used in the shooting. With money given by the police and a hidden microphone, Daniels would actually then purchase that gun from a member of the AV and bait the suspects into giving a recorded confession. The police would also recover a car used in the shooting, and later court documents from the trio's trial.
Look, that's smart though. Even though he was snitching, that's smart though. Think about it. That is smart though.
Would later show that Welch World and the AV had engaged in a series of back-and-forth shootings following the death of Bebe, which is something that Barron would seemingly later refer to in a Facebook post, saying that when Bebe died, they turned up for him. Meanwhile, after a botched retaliation attempt that killed an innocent child, the AV was still waiting for their most hated rival, Tay Savage, to get back on the streets. And in the weeks following the death of Bebe, one of their members would even post a mugshot of Tay to their Facebook with a $ placed on his forehead, indicating that a price had been put on his head. And Tay would soon be out of prison, fresh home, with a price on his head and a serious reputation to live up to. But while Tay had been in jail, something very interesting had happened on the streets of Chicago, as in 2011, a young black disciple from O Block named Chief Keef would begin making waves with his music and videos about his life as a teenage gangster in Chicago's streets, with those videos first going viral locally and eventually all over the world. Within just a few months, the entire world would be watching the Chicago drill scene with interest, as the gang wars in Chicago would become a trending topic and people all over the world would be tuning in to find out the latest drama on the city's gang-infested streets. And as the world began to learn about the deadly war in Welch World, soon too, the legend of Tay Savage would become a trending topic.
On
March 11th, 2012, Chief Keef and Lil Reese will drop the music video for their song I Don't Like on D Gaines' channel, forever changing the Chicago rap scene.
Wait, so he was at war with them? Tay Savage at war with Black? That's crazy.
This song would be the official debut single from Chief Keef, and it would rack up over 30 million views in just over a year, peaking at number 73 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles charts, going platinum, and even receiving an all-star remix from Kanye West. But more than all of that, Chief Keef's explosive rise to fame would bring the world's eyes and ears to the Chicago streets and the gang conflicts behind the music. Not only did it make Chicago gangs and their members famous all around the world, but the budding music scene would create an opportunity for those young men stuck in the cycle of violence to get out and forge another path through music. Until this moment, it would be hard for many of the lost youth of Chicago to imagine a way out of the streets. But now, rapping was a viable option, and Chief Keef was the prime example of someone using their music to find fame and fortune and move out of America's most dangerous city. This was the new environment that Tay would return to after being locked up since early 2011. In February 2012, a Welch World member would post on his Facebook about how Tay was about to have his trial, and eventually Tay would find himself back on the streets of the low end sometime in the latter half of 2012. Not that much is known about his activities from this time, but in September he would make a Twitter account using the name Tay Badass that he went by at the time, giving some insights into what he was up to during this period. And despite the drill rap craze that had taken over the city, Tay wasn't initially looking to cash in by becoming a rapper.
What made you not interested in making music at that time period? You just wanted to be like one of the homies? You didn't think you had the star potential?
Rapping, not really. I mean, now you can say anything. As you can see, you can say anything, but it wasn't really that easy to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I got the thoughts, I got the
life experience.
Yeah, the life experience. So I should be able to, it's just kind of hard to put it in words and make sense and make you know what I'm saying?
Perhaps due to the stipulations of his release, he was seemingly working a legitimate job and tweeting about how slow the days go by when you're working. However, despite having to get an honest 9 to 5...
That is true. When you do work, like, the hours and days, they go back so slow, bro. It's actually crazy that they get, like, they be so slow.
Tay was still close to many of the key figures in the early drill scene, particularly on the BD side of the BD versus GD's gang war. And he can be seen in old photos from that time hanging out with guys like Lil Reese, who he's still close to, as well as fallen O-Block members T-Roy and Jay Munna. Tay was also seemingly on positive terms with Chicago rapper Lil Durk and members of his OTF collective, regularly retweeting them. And he was commonly speaking with the rapper and fellow low-ender Katie Got Bands from OBN, as well as being in contact with the sister of Tay 600, Mena Red, and sister of King Von, Kayla B. Tay was clearly incredibly social with many of the new legendary figures from the Chicago streets, and he would seemingly have a knack for bringing people together who you might not expect to see in the same place. Tay was also seemingly good friends with guys like THF Bezu and Mubu Crump, and in a now infamous video, they can all be seen in the car together, all of them holding some pretty serious weaponry, ready and armed for the ops.
It's a whole lot of fake going on. This ain't fake though. That motherfucker ain't fake, man.
That's how we ride.
Damn.
That ain't fake, man.
Crump would actually tweet about Bezu, saying that he talks a lot about Melly, but Tay had Bezu and Melly in the car together. And Tay would indeed allegedly bring together THF Bezu and 051 Melly, despite both Tay and Bezu being at war with Melly's Young Money set.
Oh, well, that's Melly. He, what? I ain't no shit though about the band. He really on. You know, they, you know, cause they used to be on like 670 East End and shit. But they ain't really even know who like, it's like, you know, the internet, not everybody know everybody's face, you know what I'm saying?
Despite being fresh home out of jail.
The one thing about the internet and the internet, the internet will find out. Like, that's facts, but the internet will find out, y'all. Internet will find out.
He was still trigger happy Tay.
I feel like nowadays the internet is like, the internet does a police job for them. Literally.
Stories would circulate around this time about the shootouts that Tay had become involved in, with a lot of the violence stemming from the conflicting and confusing relationships Tay had across lines of the many Chicago gang wars. Tay would later open up about his relationship with Melly from 051, Young Money, in interviews, explaining that at first he didn't know anything about Melly, but he would come to know him due to the fact that Melly had a relationship with Welch's baby mother, and that Welch World largely inherited their beef with Young Money from THF 46.
So man, it's a crazy story, man. Look. So bam, at first, I didn't even know who Melly was, you feel me? But he started Welch's baby mama and shit, you feel me? So, you know, bro, them telling like, man, you know, Melly, cause at first we wasn't even into it with Young Money. We kind of like inherit that beef through the six, them the guys, so you know, they ain't alright, so we on their ass type. But, so she started fucking with him, you know, once it kind of like really started heating up between us.
After getting released from prison, however, Tay would hear rumors about Melly talking about him.
Crazy.
When I had came home,
Yo, baby mamas know that will start literally fucking with us. Your ex-girlfriend will literally fuck with y'all and then said it in your face. That's crazy. That's, you gotta watch it, because sometimes they try to backdoor you. That's what you gotta watch out.
yeah, Melly ass was just like talking, I guess, sending a lot of threats and stupid. Like a lot of them called me like, yeah, Melly said this, Melly said that. Who the f is Melly? He from 051, out the band, alright, man. So I'm studying this.
And according to Tay, one night at a club, he would end up running into Motor from Jaro City, who was his old cellmate.
I was locked up with Motor, you feel me? So I kind of had like a little relationship with Motor.
Motor was a good friend of Melly, and the two would end up getting in a conversation about him.
When I come home, I had to be 2 attempts to come home. And man, so many motherfuckers started calling to my ear. Melly saying this, Melly saying that, Melly saying that, catching Melly, wow, I don't love. So, man, one day we in a club. I run into Motor, you feel me? We got Reese with us. Now we not knowing that this like Hottie Day or some shit, you feel me? We in deja vu. So, so we see Motor stops.
This nigga's look at the nigga right here. Look like this nigga want to leave and shit. We want to dip out of there. He just sitting there like, yo.
Feel me? So, you know, we rotate with him and shit. Man, who Reese here with? He here with us. So, you know, we on his ass, huh, man? Hey, you feel me? Here with us, good. So we kind of have words with him. Matter of fact, what Melly at anyway, man? I'm saying he about this Melly, man. He with you? So folks around, wiping the band, my check it. Tell him I'm out here though, dude.
They both would also have other people with them, namely Lil Reese, who was with Tay,
Reese,
and FYBJ Main, who was with Motor.
So
FYBJ,
we go to the club and shit. So yeah, we had Reese with us that day.
In the club on phone number, I got them members with me. Do your homework on FYBJ Main having members with him, bro. It hit different. Long live Motor, BD Motor. It hit different when it's BD Motor I was with, bro. Nah,
BD?
we in the club, bro, on phone number doing us. Motor in there, throwing up the trays. Throwing up the trays, do your homework on throwing up the trays with one hand and cracking them with the other.
What does that mean?
That mean you BD, but you BDK, bro. It hit different, bro.
Okay.
According to J Main, Lil Reese had previously come through his hood shooting at them as a result of
whoever just subbed to me, I appreciate you, man, for that sub, man. Whoever that was, he or her, don't remember. Probably he. Thanks for the sub, but if it's a girl, I appreciate for that sub, man.
the family feud they were having, and J Main wanted revenge, ultimately confronting Reese in the club.
Now, Reese see me get scared. It hit different when you see Big FYBJ Main, Mr. It hit different in person. Why he scared, Sean? Cause he just came through the hood and la 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 la. So he already know what time it is, bro. It hit different. So on phone number, he see J Main mug now mug. Why y'all letting them run up on me, man? Why y'all letting them run up on me? Keep in mind, I don't know Tay Savage. From what I'm understanding, I'm guessing he is one of the other individuals who was there. I see red when I see you, so my eyes is focused on him. That's the only person I'm seeing. And he telling security, why y'all letting these walk up on me, man? I know these, man. I know them.
Lil Reese told that to security.
This is what Lil Reese telling security. Now he's backing up behind security. Remember I told you it's some stairs right here.
And then, as both crews were later leaving the club, they would see each other again getting into a shootout, with J Main ducking under a hail of bullets.
Look at that. See each other in the club and then they leave. Boom, 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 boom. What?
And somebody shooting back, allegedly shooting Tay Savage in the nose.
After that, goddamn it, we leave and they get on us. They fake it on the con. We get into a bang out. They skin my nose. They got what they got, whatever. But
I hear somebody get shot in their nose, bro. It hit different. We see somebody fall. We jump in car.
The next morning, Tay's uncle would call him, as he was a close friend with Melly's uncle, with both being from Tay's old hood. And the uncles were actually trying to organise a peace treaty between Welch World and Young Money, but Tay wouldn't go for that. However, he would develop a somewhat of a cordial relationship with 051 Melly.
so long story short, my uncles, I got some uncles that's tied in with his uncles. So like the next morning they called me like, man, pull up out the band. So I pull up, you got your mail and motor in the crib. Matter of fact, he asked me, like, man, you had a situation last night, walk the bank, man, pull up on me, I need to holler at you. So I pull up, you feel me? He got more than and y'all mail in the crib. Y'all need to squash that shit, out the band. So I tell him, I got some respect for my uncle, you feel me? So I tell him like, man, look, between me and him, it could be like, you know, like cordial, you feel me? But, you know, ain't no, it's blood and shit, so ain't no squashing. So that's really what it was, you feel me? I stayed on 670 East End for so long, and his uncle's from there, so, you know, we'll be going in and out the crib, and he'll be there. So we, you know, rotate with him. So my uncle tied in, you feel me? So they like, yeah, that out the band, whoa, y'all should squash it. They was really trying to make us like squash the whole war. But I'm like, bro, you feel me? It's blood and I can't. And then, you know.
Yeah, they're trying to get to squash it like they really wanted to squash it. But one thing is like, once there's like bloodshed involved, bro, there's no squashing nothing. There's no squashing beef, bro. Like come on, that war is gonna be forever until there's nobody left.
Over the 6, and like, I ain't gonna be able to do that. But I'm like, but with me and him, like, we could be cordial, you feel me? Like, we could be cordial. Like, I see him, it ain't gotta be no shots fired or no like that or whatever, and vice versa. So, like I say, I low-key stayed on the block where they used to hang. So I used to pull up, and Melly used to be out there with his uncles and shit. Oh, yeah, chop it up.
But the friction between Tay and 051 Young Money wasn't the only famous beef he had in Chicago during this time. Tay was clearly a big fan of the new drill wave, particularly Chief Keef's music, often tweeting his lyrics. However, Tay's personal relationship with Chief Keef's Glory Boys group and their members was a little more complicated, and there were several indications that there might have been some issues between these two crews. In one old screenshot from Tay's Instagram posted by Redditors, he was seemingly implying that he had beaten up and robbed GBE member Taydo of his chain and watch. Tay would later address these rumors in a 16 Shot 'em interview, admitting that there had been an altercation between the two, but denying ever robbing him.
Because I had seen something, they said some, like you had robbed him or something.
Yeah. Hell nah, I ain't potato.
Was it like a altercation at all? Like what?
Yeah, it was a little altercation. Got really blown out of proportion. Tato, I though.
Another rumor would also claim that Tay had beaten up Ball Out and robbed his chain. Again, Tay would comment on this rumor in his DJU interview, calling it a misunderstanding.
And they said something about robbing Ball Out.
The thing is, bro, is how do they know that he allegedly robbed Ball Out and Tato? How do they know that? You could have said, like, how do they know that?
Man, yeah, that was some
allegedly.
Yeah, that was some allegedly. But it was really just a misunderstanding with that. You feel me?
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then, in yet another occasion, Tay's close friend Mubu Crump would tweet to GBE Capo, accusing him of dissing Welch and threatening to beat him up like they did Ball Out. However, there was seemingly never anything past these few skirmishes, and recently, Tay appeared to be hanging out with both Chief Keef and Taydo at a club together with Lil Reese. In many ways, Tay had become the connector between many of the fractured and warring gang sets all over Chicago. And these friendships, as well as the altercations and his reputation as a bully, made him a legendary figure in the Chicago drill scene before he had rapped a single lyric. However, it would be years before he made the decision to enter the rap scene himself, and for the time being, he would continue to cultivate a serious reputation for—
It's crazy that Tay is he's cool with both sides. Like, he has friends that some BDs, some people are GDs. Like, he don't with nobody. Just his crew, Welch World, and then Welch World versus everybody. Pretty much what it sounds like. That's pretty much what it sounds like to me. But then they're probably cool with some blacks and this black. You feel me?
For himself in the streets rather than in the studio. Despite the rise of Chicago drill music in 2011 and 2012, Welch World's own rappers, the Buck 20 Brick Boys, were beginning to go their separate ways around this time, with Billionaire Black beginning to associate much more with the gangster disciples from 63rd like FBG Duck and Lil J. So at the time, Welch World would have relatively little representation in the city's now booming rap scene, with one artist called Lodi Bay, who would unfortunately not gain much popularity despite some undeniable talent, being one of their few new representatives in music at this time. But what is clear from the social media activities of Welch World members is that they were still heavily involved in the low-end gang war in this period, and the alliances that were formed before and during Tay's incarceration were still the same, with Welch World still being close allies with THF-46 and OBN, or the Oak Boy Nation, who was heavily allied with Welch World under their 0439 joint gang set, which combined both sets' main streets, 43rd and 39th. And they were still beefing with the same sets, including 051 Young Money, the Rock Boys, Lake Park, aka Suwoo or TTB, Lawless, and of course, the Av. And it seems that the war in the low end was still preoccupying Tay Savage's everyday activities. Another Tay, Tay 600, who himself has ties to Welch World, would later reminisce in his YouTube storytime video about Tay Savage how Tay would even try and recruit members from his 600 set to Welch World, particularly one of their biggest savages, D Rose, who was made famous in the drill scene by Chief Keef, who would often shout out this young savage as one of his main shooters in the early songs.
It was disinserted from his hood because they was in two black. He pulled up to my crib and was looking for D Rose. He said, man, I'm BD. This man told me, he said, I ain't gonna lie, on Welch, I want him. I want Rose. Tell Rose I said, hit my line, man. Tell Rose I said, come for me. On BD, he said he got pipe, everything D Rose want. On BD, whatever Rose want, he got it. He gonna put Drake in his hand. He gonna put Drake, ARP, 30, whatever he want, whatever Rose want on BD, he got it for Rose. And I'm just looking like, man, what on video back at the phone, boy, that Rose, our slider, he's sliding for us on King, baby. He ain't gonna be on the hill now. Here I'm talking for Rose and shit on BD whole time. Rose Rose on Biddy, he probably would have rolled around with Tay, cause Rose like other gangsters too, folks. On Biddy, but Rose like other gangsters too on King David, folks. This man come to my crib trying to recruit D Rose, folks. I'm just like, damn.
Recruiting people out like they're recruiting. You sitting there getting recruited for college for basketball and all that.
Come on, Biddy, you that mean that much to you, folks? Like you don't got enough savages, enough guns, enough this and that. You feel me? Like you just want more artillery, more savages in your circle, more demons in your vicinity on BDE recruiting the gangsters.
Meanwhile, Welch World's ops, particularly the AV, were equally invested in the war, promising on Twitter to drop bodies before the end of 2012. It would appear in the face of this complicated war, Welch World's ops were also clicking up. With all of these gang sets going against Welch World, the AV, aka FTB or Free the Burr, the Rock Boys or Rock Nation, Lawless, aka Jamar World, aka the Booney Boys, 051 Young Money, and Lake Part, aka Suwu, aka TTB or Train to Blow, all being seemingly very close to each other, with three of them, the AV, the Rock Boys, and Lawless, being particularly close to each other.
Because the Jamar Boys beyond that, Young Savage, man, else. You already know how we rock, man. That old bitch, man. 035, man. Tomorrow, bitch. You know how we rock. Cess where these streets, man. We out here, man. Squad. Hell, no O's, man. Be the ass. Hell. Like what? Squad. BBG, man.
Oh, these niggas like they're like 16, 17, 18. Bro, they young, bro. That's how crazy it is. That's crazy.
And then, in May 2013, something would happen that would arguably make all of these gangs even closer, as a beloved member would lose their life, and these gangs would formally build an alliance against their enemies. Tory Stewart, aka Snoop, not to be confused with another Snoop that we'll discuss later, was a college student majoring business who dreamed of getting into home renovation after graduation. However, Snoop also had past ties to the streets. He grew up in the Lawless Gardens and was part of the Lawless set, even honoring their dead members in his social media handles. In 2011, a 17-year-old Snoop and his friend were arrested during a traffic stop for having an automatic weapon and drugs packaged for sale. Unfortunately, right when he was seemingly about to turn his life around, tragedy would strike. When on the 20th of May 2013, at around 8:20 p.m, a freshly turned 20-year-old Snoop was driving in his car in the Lake Meadows neighborhood just north of Bronzeville, when somebody would open fire, shooting at his car several times, with one of the bullets reportedly hitting him in the head. Snoop was taken to hospital in critical condition, but would unfortunately be pronounced dead that night around 11:40 p.m. Snoop's family would later give an interview to a newspaper telling them how they used to frequent the park that Snoop was killed in front of, with this park being close to the Lawless Gardens where they used to live. After Snoop's death, members of Lawless, as well as Rock Boys and the AV, would pay their respects on social media. They would even release a song that Snoop had made before his death with a Young Money member by the name of Rilla. This would be later followed by other songs dedicated to Snoop, including his friend Hard Knock's song Lil N-Word Snoop, and Young Savage featuring Booney Boy Mook's song Bitch We Snoop, where they would diss their ops, including Welch World. Meanwhile, Welch World rapper Lodi Bay would repeatedly diss Snoop on Twitter and insinuate that Welch World had something to do with his murder. The Chicago police were also seemingly treating Snoop's death as connected to the war with Welch World, listing his homicide as a reference in their reports regarding the murder of Cess. This would later lead to some Redditors believing that Tay Savage himself might have killed Snoop, while others would rightfully challenge such claims, suggesting
I don't understand. How do they know this? How do they even know? Like, bro, it's crazy how the internet knows things and they do the job for the police, bro. They do the police work.
Tay would have been arrested for the crime if there was genuine evidence proving his involvement. But in any case, Snoop's death took place around the time as three of Welch World's main ops, Lawless, the Rock Boys, and the AV, had allegedly decided to make their alliance more official. And so, sometime after Snoop's death, they began to refer to themselves as 757 on social media and in songs. With this name, the result of them using the last number of each set's main street to create a new name. The Rock Boys, who reside at 27th Street and State Street, Lawless, who reside at 35th Street and Rhodes Avenue, and the AV, who reside at 37th Street and Indiana. Take the last number of each of those streets, and you got 757. Soon, also Welch World would
That's
get
clever.
word about this new 757 alliance. Interestingly, when Tay would finally become a rapper years later, he would actually post a story on his Instagram insinuating that he had created 757, adding yet more fire to the rumors that he may personally have been behind the death of Snoop. Whether or not these rumors are true, there's one thing that cannot be denied, and that's the fact that Tay Savage was incredibly active in the streets during this period. However, unfortunately for him, his activities would be attracting the attention of the authorities, and they were just one step behind, waiting for him to slip up. And when he did, even if they couldn't get him for murder, they would make sure that they would put him away for as long as possible.
20 years? Damn, 20 years? But on the serve, what, 8? Good behavior and stuff. He got a GED, bro. But 20 years? Damn.
Summer 2013, something strange was happening in Welch World. Tweets would circulate suggesting that the streets had been quiet and that the only people out spinning the block for the gang was Tay Savage. Clearly Tay was active in the streets around this time, but so were the police, who had likely been paying very close attention to Tay ever since his name first came up in relation to the murder of Cess 2 years earlier. At the end of July 2013, Tay would be suddenly taken into custody after being asked by his parole officer to come to his office.
Where were you at when you got arrested?
When I got arrested for that, my parole officer said he needed to see me. So I went to go holler at him, and they locked me up.
About a week after being taken into custody, on the 6th of August, Tay is revealed to be a suspect in an armed robbery and vehicular hijacking case that took place on the 16th of July. Tay and his co-defendant had allegedly approached 2 victims, telling them, "You know what this is," while displaying a handgun. They ordered the victims to the ground and went through their pockets, afterwards taking off in one of the victims' car, a 1985 Chevy Monte Carlo. One of the victims...
That's kind of a W car, though. That's a W car.
I went to go holler at him, and they locked me up.
Yeah, thank you for another sub. Who just subbed? Thank you for that sub, man.
About a week after being taken into custody, on the 6th of August, Tay is revealed to be a suspect in an armed robbery and vehicular hijacking case that took place on the 16th of July. Tay and his co-defendant had allegedly approached 2 victims, telling them, "You know what this is," while displaying a handgun. They ordered the victims to the ground and went through their pockets, afterwards taking off in one of the victims' car, a 1985 Chevy Monte Carlo.
That's a nice car, though. Nice
One of the
car.
victims would later identify Tay in both a photo array and a physical lineup. Interestingly, this alleged robbery took place practically in the heart of Welch World, almost exactly in the middle of their supposed 40th to 43rd Street territory. Later, Tay would reveal during his Say Cheese interview that one of the victims in this case was in fact a brother of a known Chicago rapper, C. Honcho.
And the people who identified you was C. Honcho's brother? He was one of the guys?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was like a witness type.
Nah, he was a victim.
A victim, my bad, a victim.
Yeah, he pointed me out, saying that I poked him. The other guy that was with him was a regular civilian. He like a police officer.
However, Tay's case wouldn't be considered newsworthy until November. According to police reports, on the 4th of November, when Tay was in custody, detectives would indeed take him to be interviewed regarding the murder of Cess, which would prompt Tay to ask the detectives what had taken them so long to finally come and get him. Tay would deny his involvement in the murder of Cess, but he would tell detectives that one of the theories was that Cess and Neef had killed his friend Welch. Soon after, he would invoke his right for attorney, and the interrogation was terminated. 2 days after that interview, on the 6th of November 2013, the news would report that he would officially have been charged for the murder of Cess, and his mugshot would be circulated in Chicago news articles all about the murder. After this, Tay's cases would seemingly move slowly, during which time he would remain in jail, while his friends would post on social media demanding his release. However, in March 2014, local news would suddenly report that Tay would also be charged with the murder of Neef. Once again, a police report would reveal a movie-like situation leading up to this charge, with Tay telling the investigators who came to interview him, "Guess you're right when you said you'd come back for me." Tay was then asked to identify Neef from a photo, and he would tell them that he knew Neef, but was not friends with him. The detectives would also question Tay about his tattoos, one of them involving bullet cartridges and smoke, inferring that these tattoos were hinting towards his activities in the streets. Next, an interesting episode would occur, as Tay, or Dwayne, would try to deny that he was known by any nicknames, most likely knowing that one of the things that had since the beginning tied him to the murders was his nickname Tay, as several witnesses and other sources had since the beginning of the investigation named the suspect as Tay. Things would get uncomfortable for Tay when detectives would then talk to his mother, who would probably, without realizing how such a small detail could hurt him, tell the detectives that he was indeed known by the nickname Tay. The detectives would also show Tay videos from YouTube of him participating in gang-related gang-related activities and being armed with a handgun. As far as the detectives were concerned, they had their man, so they would press forward, with Tay opting to take these murder charges to a trial, a grueling process which he would elaborate on extensively in a Say Cheese interview.
Hey, so he knew he was gonna beat him. If he wouldn't take the trial, he knew he was gonna beat it.
Tay would explain the order of the trials, with Cess's murder trial being first, lasting for less than a week.
Which trial was first, Cess or Neef?
They gave me Cess. I did Cess body first.
How many days did this trial last?
They was quick. They was like, I think a jury trial usually be like 7 days. I think mine was like 4 days, both of them.
Tay would explain how several witnesses pointed to him as the suspect, but other witnesses pointed also to other suspects, and ultimately the shooter was wearing a mask, which helped his case.
The reason why they charged me because they had several people pointing me out on both cases. Several people pointing me out, saying that I did it. That was with the victims. They was pointing me out saying like, yeah, he did it. You know what I'm saying? And I beat it because whoever did it had on the mask.
Apparently the witnesses were the people who were with Cess in the car at the time of her murder, and they all claimed to know that Tay did it. But ultimately, since the shooter who did the murder was wearing a mask, he could not be identified.
Them was the people that was with her that was saying I did it. Like, I think her sister, a few of her friends, all of them was saying they went to high school with me and everything, and they knew that I did it. You know what I'm saying? But like I say, how I beat it was because whoever did it had a mask. So you saying I did it, but how could you say I did it? Whoever did it had on the mask.
However, it's worth noting that in the original suspect description, the mask was seemingly never mentioned by witnesses. Tay would tell Say Cheese that when he got his not guilty verdict, he was smiling and felt like he had been blessed.
Man, I was just smiling. That's a blessing. I was just smiling. I was excited, you know what I'm saying? It's a blessing, because like I say, with that, it can always go either way. If you're innocent, if you're guilty or whatever, it still can go either way when you're in trial, because it's 12 people that's on the stand that know nothing about the law. You know what I'm saying? So
it's true.
It's just who tell the best story between the lawyer and the state.
Despite this miraculous not guilty result, things were far from done. And according to Tay's No Jumper interview, Tay demanded a speedy trial in the case of Cess's murder. And when he beat it, prosecutors then decided to make an unusual move, bringing the robbery charges next, in the hopes that they might have time to find more evidence ahead of the Neef murder trial.
I demand speedy trial on the murder. Boom, now they come put another murder on. Before I could beat it, they put another murder on. So now I beat that murder. So now the states got they got the luxury to pick which cases. I'm fighting 2 cases. They could pick what case they want to trial first. So they elect on the robbery, which is kind of weird. Like, it's a murder. Why you don't do the murder first? Because it's weak.
And then, in a surprising turn of events, one of Tay's baby mothers and 3 of his Welch World associates would end up getting tied into the case, as they would be arrested and charged with witness intimidation around late November 2014. According to court proceedings from their cases, they had made indirect threats to one of the victims in Tay's carjacking case, implying that he would be shot if he moved forward with his plan to act as a witness in Tay's upcoming trial. They were also allegedly involved in shooting the victim's brother, who had fortunately survived with just a hand shot. And later, they allegedly terrorized the victim's mother and aunt by coming to the victim's property armed with a gun. As police arrived to the scene, they would find and arrest the 4 defendants and recover a 9mm handgun. Following his friend's failed attempts to violently silence a witness, not to mention the terrible effect that this new witness intimidation charge would have on his reputation at the upcoming trial, Tay would ultimately end up copping to a guilty plea in the robbery and carjacking case before things got any worse for him at trial. And Tay would later tell 16 Shot in an interview that he was confident at first, but when his friends caught those charges, he had to change his plan.
They locked my baby mama up and 3 of the guys. So I really was like, Frank, we gonna beat this. But then some of the guys got locked up for tampering with the witness, because I think like both of them got shot, both of my victims got shot, and they was trying to connect.
Hey, that's how you know they low though. They try to help them. They try to, you know, saying tap out the witness. You feel me? But they're tampering with the witness, so they got to get locked up too.
Yeah. So Frank just like, man, go on, cop out. There's too much going on. They got locked up and they get to running. It was just a lot of.
The state would seemingly make an example of Tay since they couldn't get him on the Cess murder, with the courts dealing out a monster sentence of 20 years for this robbery, despite the prosecution dropping the original aggravating factor of using a firearm. However, due to Illinois' truth in sentencing law, Tay would only have to serve 50% of his sentence, which would still take an entire decade off his life. But despite this huge sentence, Tay claimed that this was all a tactical move in his No Jumper interview, suggesting that he wanted to get that case out the way, otherwise the state might have had him waiting as many as 6 years just to face trial before he could then face his next trial for the Neef murder.
So I cop out to that, so I can hurry him get that out the way, because I don't want to, stall 3, 4, 5, 6 years on the robbery. A few people saying you did that. They ain't had no, on me on the robbery. They ain't had no. They said I robbed somebody, took their car. They ain't had nothing. They just had the 2 people they said I robbed pointing me out saying that I did. That's all they had. I guess that's enough to convict you. So I just copped out 20 or 50 on that.
That's not enough evidence. You need evidence that like type of DNA or something that he was there. You can't say just because people can just lie and say you did it. Come on now. You have to have physical evidence to say that he was there, not from what 2 people say.
Even with a 20-year sentence on him, Tay still
what I'm
had a murder
saying?
case to beat. The Neef murder trial was next, and once again, there were witnesses who claimed that Tay was the shooter in a lineup.
Now the next one was Neef or Neef, and this happened in traffic.
Yeah.
And this one had witnesses too.
Yeah.
And all the witnesses claimed the guy had a mask on.
No, at first, some of them were saying that I did. They said my name, pointing me out of lineups.
But despite seemingly strong witness testimony against Tay, the case had appeared weak since the beginning, with the detectives failing to even recover rather basic information such as Tay's Facebook account. Moreover, the gun recovered during Tay's robbery and carjacking case would not be a match for the gun used in the murder of Neef, closing yet another crucial lead that could have tied Tay to the murder. The police would also struggle to get the friends of Neef to help the investigation by testifying. And most importantly, once again in the Neef murder, the suspects, since the beginning, were reported to have been wearing ski masks, again making facial identification by witnesses practically impossible. Now that hits different when you realize that Tay actually has a tattoo of 2 masks with text saying, "Live now, die later." But hey, I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Anyway, despite the prosecution seemingly first attempting to claim that witnesses had recognized Tay as the assailant during a lineup, the fact was the shooter had concealed their identity with a mask. And it turned out that the witnesses only recognized Tay in general, and this is a contradiction with the fact that the shooter wore a mask, destroying the prosecution's argument completely.
You know how sometimes it'll be a police report. Now you can't always go out the police report because the police report is just what the police story. The police ask, did you know anybody in lineup? Which the police do that sometimes. They'll ask you like, do you know anybody in lineup? Then you say him. You know what I'm saying? And then they circle it and put your initial by it. They'll like trick you with their words or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I just know I beat it.
Thus, in the end, the case would turn out to be much like the first one. There simply wasn't enough evidence to place Tay specifically at the scene beyond a reasonable doubt, and once again, Tay would walk away with yet another not guilty verdict. Thus, despite ending up with 20 years for robbery, Tay had beaten both of the murder charges against him, scoring a miraculous result. And his lawyer would even victoriously post the result on their website, boasting how he had gotten his client 2 not guilty verdicts on murder cases in less than an hour. Now, Tay had actually employed the services of one of the top 10 defense lawyers in the state of Illinois, Frank J. Himmel, later telling his IG Live followers that he thanks 2 people for beating his murders, God and Frank Himmel.
I ain't beat that case because was keeping it honey because he was telling bitches and don't come to court. I beat them bitches because God and Frank Himmel.
But this bulletproof defense did not come cheap, and Tay would later open up about murder cases costing as much as $40,000 to defend against, and shouting out his lawyer Frank for looking out for him and not demanding upfront payment, with Tay suggesting that he is still paying for his legal fees today, long after his release.
How much did you spend on a lawyer for all this?
So that's the thing. A murder, at least $30,000 for one murder. You know what I'm saying? But Frank was so locked in with me, you know, he was with me, you know, like when I first got locked up, you know, we was paying or whatever, but you know, people started getting locked up, people started dying and everything, but he was locked in with me, so I still owe him. When I get some paper, I still owe him.
Ultimately though, no matter the cost, you can't put a price on freedom, and Tay Savage had truly beaten the odds, getting not guilty verdicts on 2 separate murder charges, all while numerous people with connections to the incident swore they knew Tay was the killer. Unfortunately for them, however, whoever that masked shooter was that killed Cess and Neef knew exactly how to cover their tracks perfectly. However, due to the sloppiness of the armed robbery case, the Chicago police had finally gotten
That's what I said too. They know how to cover their tracks and all that. If you know how to cover your tracks, she'll be good.
Happy Tay off the streets with a monster 20-year sentence. And so from 2014 to 2022, Tay would settle in to a long stay in prison, counting down the days when he would be unleashed back onto the streets of Welch World, with one of the most jaw-dropping backstories the Chicago drill scene had ever heard. Tay would claim that despite receiving a 20-year sentence for armed robbery, he would only really have to do 10, and ultimately ended up getting out even earlier after just 8 years and 9 months with good behavior and after getting his GED.
That was 10 years. I had a few years in already. I actually got out early because I supposed to just begin out like yesterday. I was supposed to get out like yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, but with good time, I got my GED in jail and all
How
that.
long?
I had 20 at 50 for armed robbery. They dropped it down to armed robbery with no firearm. They dropped the gun enhancement because it's a 21-year gun enhancement. So now it's a 6 to 30. They gave me 20 at 50. With good time, school and good time and all that, I knocked it down to like 8 years. 8 years and 9 months.
So Tay would truly be able to beat the odds if he didn't get into too much
Hey,
trouble.
at least he got a GED though. That's a good thing. At least he got his GED, bro. That's a good thing, bro. That's a blessing. Even though how a diploma is sort of the same thing, you still say, oh, I graduated high school.
But even having to deal with a minimum term of 8 years and 9 months, Tay Savage would be settling into his life in prison for the foreseeable future. And he had been seen in pictures taken behind the wall, seemingly in good spirits. And even his ops from 757 would tweet saying that they miss Tay being on the streets and suggesting that gang life is boring when their top op is no longer around. Going on to say free Tay so that they can kill him and that they still have smoke waiting for him when he gets out. Some even suggesting that Tay is Welch World's only hitter and that the beef had died down since he had been incarcerated. But that wouldn't be entirely true. Murders would still be taking place on the streets of Welch World while Tay was locked up. On August the 15th, 2014, 25-year-old Walter Neely, known by friends simply as Walt, was out with a friend late at night in Bronzeville going to pick up some milk for his daughter. They were a block away from the Chicago Police headquarters, which would usually
want to pick up milk for his kids, bro. Damn.
Be one of the most safe places in Bronzeville. However, Walt was an alleged member of Welch World, and here he was literally surrounded by enemies from almost all directions, with the Avs hood being less than a mile to the south, Lawless's hood being about half a mile to the east, and the Rock Boys about a mile.
Bro, look at that. Chicago Police Headquarters, the people that they're probably beefing. He'll be winning right here. That's close. That's super close.
According to news reports, while on the street, someone would approach Walt and his friend on foot and begin shooting at them. According to Walt's family, at this point, Walt had told his friend to run, while Walt himself seemingly stayed in place, ready to take on the attacker. Unfortunately, sometime later, Walt would be found by the police with a shot to his abdomen. According to the medical examiner, Walt would be pronounced dead about half an hour later in the hospital, but according to his mother, he was already dead on the scene. Afterwards, Welch World members and affiliates would once again pay their tributes on social media. Meanwhile, Walt's family would tell the newspapers how Walt had had a criminal past, but he had since turned his life around and was passionate about drawing art. However, clearly, for the enemies of Welch World, Walt was still very much an active member, and there wasn't
even if you did a gang stuff in the past, church in your life, your ops or used to be ops, they don't care about that. They still want to get you, bro. It's crazy. He can turn your life around and then stuff from your past catches up to you.
Wasn't a shortage of 757 members dissing him after his death, and as soon as the news was out, 757 members were claiming to be smoking Walt and Welch, with some asking if the W that Welch World members were rocking is for Welch or for Walt now, and mocking them, saying that it certainly doesn't stand for winning given how they were taking losses in the streets. While others were simply implying that they were gathering W's, both literally and figuratively. Some even posted vines saying that they were smoking on Walt. There would also be insinuations that Walt had perhaps been dissing Cess and had even come to his ops hood looking for trouble, like Welch had allegedly done before his death, with his ops comparing the two on Twitter and saying that they went out the same way. These tweets are certainly making 757 look responsible, but despite the close proximity of the murder scene to the police headquarters, it at first seemed like there were no suspects, with posters asking for tips being placed around the neighborhood. However, about a month later, the news would report that 2 teens had been arrested and charged with the murder. Ironically, like Cess and Neef, another boy-girl duo of shooters. These teens were Kenneth Brown and Dreana Grooms, both only 16. Kenneth was known in the streets as Snoop.
16? Bro. 16? Ain't that like your sophomore year, 16? Bro.
And lived in the Avs neighborhood, not to be confused with the other Snoop from Lawless who was killed in 2013, and Dre, who lived in the Rock Boys' Dearborn Homes projects. After these charges, 757 members would post again, lamenting the arrest of these young gunslingers from their block, even accusing people of snitching, and continuing to diss Walt. Dre and Snoop would seemingly remain locked up while fighting their charges until almost 3 years later in 2017. 757 rapper Munno would give an update that they had actually beaten their charges, receiving not guilty verdicts, and would be coming home. However, a few days later, something had seemingly changed, and it now looked like Snoop wouldn't be getting out at all, even after beating the murder charge. Dre, on the other hand, was freed and welcomed home by other members, and she would eventually get back on social media to celebrate her freedom. But the real shock would come several years later in 2021, when local news and eventually even magazines like Variety would report that Dre's life and fight against these murder charges would be being made into a movie titled after her real name, starring actors like Wunmi Mosaku from HBO series Lovecraft Country. Now, since then, there's been little updates about the movie, which appears to still be in production, but I've got no doubt that there's a lot more to this story, and a gritty movie based on a teenage female shooter from the low end is something I would definitely watch. But anyway, back to the story. Coming into 2015,
she has a movie about it. That's...
World would suffer another major loss, although this time it would be from their closest ally, OBN, who still ran with Welch World under their 4390 alliance. Boss Rel had barely turned 16, but he was already a well-respected member in both sets, having been in the streets, getting in trouble since 13, and joining a gang at 15 according to his family. Boss Rel was particularly close with the Welch World rapper Lodi Bay, and the two would often be seen together, whether in the streets or the studio. However, according to Rel's family, they had moved away from their old home in the former Ida B. Wells homes to get away from the gang lifestyle, after Rel's older brother had become an unintended victim of gang violence, getting killed by a stray bullet when he was just 13. Unfortunately, this wasn't enough to keep Rel from returning to hang out with his old friends in Bronzeville, which would eventually lead to his death. On the night of the 12th of January 2015, Boss Rel, real name Terrell Campbell, was walking on the OBN's main street, 39th, also known as Pershing Road, when he was reportedly approached by two males who would open fire, hitting Rel several times. He was transported to hospital, but would eventually pass away from his injuries. Later, during his memorial, Rel's mother would reportedly struggle to come to terms with the image that the police had painted of her son, claiming that he was actually a hardened gangster who had been terrorizing the neighborhood for years with his friends despite his young age. And unfortunately, the terror suffered by Chicago neighborhoods was only going to increase moving towards 2016, as the murder rate began to rise sharply. 5 months later, in June of 2015, the 757 side would experience a loss that would have a huge impact on them, losing another loved member before they would even see adulthood too. Sunno was another young but well-respected member who had been part of the Rock Boys for years, despite being only 17. Sunno could often be seen dissing Welch by dropping the W hand sign, and he was seemingly very close with many members of the AV. Later, some Redditors have also claimed that it was actually Sunno who killed Boss Rel, as well as having killed another member of Welch World. In the summer of 2015, violence was rising in the city of Chicago once again, and in the early morning hours of Saturday the 6th of June, Sunno and his 757 friends were out at a party in the Bridgeport neighborhood close to their Dearborn Homes stomping grounds. However, after they left the party around 2 a.m., an SUV reportedly pulled up next to their car and let off shots.
You guys see they 17 and 18. Young, but they was young, bro. They was young.
They would drive away for a short moment before two males exited the vehicle wounded. The police would find Sunno, real name Richard Edwards, unresponsive after being hit by a bullet in the armpit. Sunno would die at the scene, and his lifeless body would be left.
Yeah, guys, I'm gonna try to get this video to this part. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get this part to 50 minutes.
Finish their investigation.
It's gonna
his
be
mother,
like 5
who arrived at the
parts.
scene, devastated and unable to hold her son. And video of the absolutely devastating scene as Sunno's mother is being held back was captured and posted on Twitter by a news journalist.
Let me go, Daddy! Let me go! Let me go, Daddy! Let me go! Let me go! Let me get him! Get me up! Get me
That's so sad, bro.
No, Daddy!
That's so sad.
No! No! No!
The loss of Sunno hit 757 hard, and already later that morning, rapper Munno would tweet a tribute to his friend, vowing revenge, and others would follow, even reminiscing of a time when they had slid through their ops hood, including Welch World. And seemingly only a few days after Sunno's death, they had renamed their hood Sunnyside in his honor, a name that many of the Rock Boys would primarily represent for years to come. By 2016, the violence had truly erupted in Chicago. Whether the rise and popularity of drill music was influencing the violence is a question that academics continues to research for years to come. But what we do know for sure is that in 2016, Welch World would lose yet another member, and this time it would be one of their only rappers, Lodi Bey. Lodi had been dropping songs and music videos for years at this point, all the way from 2011 when he was just a kid. Although he was seemingly never fully committed to just rapping, usually dropping a few music videos each year, such as the music videos for the track Soldier with Boss Rel and for the track Off Top Freestyle in 2014, the Welch World and OBN anthem Wit the Gang, as well as the now ominous I'ma Die This Way in 2016. All of these songs typically included many disses aimed towards the ops of Welch World, particularly the sets in 757. The deadly year of 2016 was almost over, when Lodi and his family and friends were gathered for Christmas in the Chatham neighborhood. They were gathered in front of a house to shoot dice when someone in a grey hoodie came through the alley and opened fire on the crowd gathered in front of the house, hitting numerous people. The shooting would leave 5 people wounded.
Yeah, on Christmas Day, bro, you having fun with your family on Christmas Day, that's what happens.
Some in critical condition, but it would unfortunately kill both Lodi and his brother. This event would truly showcase the brutality of violence that had taken over the city, where savages are spending their Christmas Day hunting for ops and not having second thoughts about shooting into large crowds of people just to catch their target. This senselessness and lack of hope was reflected in the comment that Lodi's sister gave to the news, saying that the shootings in Chicago don't even require a reason. And moving into 2017, disrespect would still fly between these groups of bitterly at war gangs. Friends of Neef like Money Man would still be dissing Welch in songs throughout 2017. In fact, during these violent years when Tay Savage was locked up, several rappers would emerge from 757 affiliated sets and build budding rap careers in the Chicago drill scene. People like Gunsmoke Gutter, 757 Wooski, 757 Mono, and 757 BA, just to name a few. But it wasn't just 757 going hard against Welch World in music, as even 051 Young Money, the other set that had a long-standing beef with Welch World, would use their music to disrespect Welch, with Driller's infamous Chicago anthem, 51 Dead Ops, featured a lyric where he wants his ops don't get welched. However, no matter how treacherous the beef between them and their rivals got in the music or the streets, Welch World's biggest target and threat, Tay Savage,
they be dissing people and then they use them. That's the one thing about songs, when your favorite rappers start dissing people, like diss somebody and then people go look it up and then it becomes like a big thing.
Would remain behind bars and unable to influence things on the streets during these years. But Tay's beefs wouldn't just be active on the outside, because inside jail, despite being on his best behavior in the hopes to get an early release, Tay would still be getting into fights, with a minute-long scuffle later surfacing online in a jailhouse surveillance video that showed 2 people fighting on the upper deck, and fans would even see post-fight analysis from Tay and the man he was fighting in the form of jailhouse interviews on camera.
Mr. Timberlake, what happened upstairs? Why wouldn't you stop fighting when I told you to?
Fight?
Yeah. Okay, do you want protective custody? Do you wish to press charges? Do you wish to press charges against Mr. Bird? On inmate Bird. Okay, that's great. Thank you, sir. Mr. Bird.
That's the one thing you cannot snitch. If you snitch up in jail, it's if you like you're done. Like it's over for you. It's completely over for you.
Why were you and the other inmate fighting?
We planned, huh?
Just playing, you weren't fighting?
No.
Why didn't you separate when I gave you loud verbal orders to separate?
Because I ain't want to get slammed.
Okay. Do you wish to press charges?
No.
Do you want protective custody?
No.
Thank you very much, sir.
However, despite the negativity taking place both inside and outside the prison walls, it would seem that while in jail, Tay was still trying to keep a positive mindset. Tay would claim to have gained maturity in prison, claiming to have even tried to mentor other youngsters who were in there facing murder charges who he met inside.
Because you went in and you were like super young when you first started that bid, and it's like you're becoming a man as time goes by in there. Just you felt yourself growing up a lot?
Yeah, for sure. Then I started seeing young guys coming in like 16, 17, 17, 18. I'd be like, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They wild like I was. So I'm like, man, that's crazy. You know, I try to holler at them, give them some little game. Like, but you know, they ain't trying to hit nothing. No. They trying to hit, they on what they on.
Mm-hmm.
But I still try to blow them. Like, man, you gotta chill, man. Get some money, man. Why the man you want to be? Because look, I beat those murders. You know what I'm saying? And that's a blessing. But it's guys that didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I'd be talking to them guys like, man, they be like, man, it's crazy, man. I ain't do it or what I do or whatever. I'd be like, man, that's crazy. But it's like you stuck. like, you stuck in us. So now it's like...
Interestingly enough, one of the people Tay would cross paths with in prison was none other than infamous Chicago gangster and killer King Von. Tay claimed to have originally met King Von in prison around 2011, where they became good friends and people began to compare them to each other from the very start.
Because people always compare you to Von and say that, like, you know, they sort of see the similarities in you guys' personalities or your background.
Man, you wanna know what's crazy? They said that when I first met him. We was on in Division 6 on the school wing.
He met, so he was cool with Von too? Okay.
Deck had went up or whatever. No, the deck didn't even go up. Something happened. They moved me. They just moved me to the next deck. And then Von came. And they was like, man, it's this dude on the next deck that remind me of you. So I'm like, yeah, I'm who? Hey, man, his name Von. He from the O. I'm like, yeah. So now I see him. I'm like, I don't really see it. But I'm like, all right, cool. I get to rotate with him. I'm like, yeah, I like this little dude. So we get to chopping it up. And then we got locked. We just locked.
So you and Von relationship came from being inside jail?
Yeah, that's why I met him at. But some of the guys knew him already, like from my area. But you know, Von was a little younger than me. So some of the guys like around his age, they knew who Von was for sure.
Tay would end up crossing paths with Von during his 20-year sentence, even claiming that Von had told him about his plans to become a rapper.
You were in there with King Von?
Yeah. We never was out at the same time. But we always be like exchanging words, or I get out here, you know what I'm saying? But we always keep in communication.
And he gets out and blow up.
He said he was gonna do it though.
He said that? Crazy. Von got out, he did his thing, then Von's not even here, bro, and takes out of jail now, bro. If Von will sit here, bro, Von will be up in the industry, bro. I'm trying to tell you, bro. He'll be up there.
Yeah. He said he's gonna do it.
Same thing with Pop Smoke, you feel me? Same thing with Pop Smoke.
Raps was weak as hell when he first came out. In jail, weak as hell. He's spinning shit on the gallery. I'm like, bro, is you for real? Yeah, watch this. He did it.
Tay and Von would keep in touch, and Tay would even post a handwritten letter that Von had sent him while in jail, with Von even drawing the Welch World W next to the O Block O, and writing,
right in the state bill. What's her name? Maria something. When the Marco come back to the county, on some real shit day, whenever I touch and I come up and get right, I'll make sure you and every like us straight. Oh no, it's only a few. And you better go ahead and start working out, because I can merge it. I'll beat your ass. Yeah. I've been whooping and I'm cocky now. I'll knock you flat out. You my boy though, so I ain't even on that. But I love you, broski. Keep your head up, because these be quick to try to snake you. Pretty real. Loyalty is everything. Loose lips sink ships from a stretch game. AKA El Chopper, AKA Von Savage, AKA King Von from the O.
Ultimately, as the years went past, Tay would get closer and closer to his release date, with mugshots and prison pictures surfacing in each year leading up to his release. In April 2020, Welch World members post that Tay is coming home soon, and his May 2021 mugshot would be the final image of Tay to release before the man himself. Meanwhile, outside in the streets of Chicago, the violence was showing no signs of slowing down, making 2021 the deadliest year in Chicago since the mid-90s. This would also be felt in the low end, where the situation was indeed starting to resemble a 90s gang war. And one of the parties particularly taking a lot of losses was 757. In February 2021, they would suffer an enormous loss when one of their most loved and respected members, and one of their first major rappers, Gunsmoke Gutter, real name Keontae Gregory Mollett, would be gunned down in the Grand Crossing neighborhood. The loss of Gutter hit 757 hard, and in the years to come, they have often mentioned him in their music, usually making it clear that they don't play about his name at all. But then, only a month later, another major tragedy would strike, when another key player in 757 would lose his life in a crash-out mission by his ops that was so brazen that it would baffle even the most devoted followers of Chicago drill culture, who at this point had gotten used to pretty much anything. A member called Big Folks, real named Jawan Davis, was standing in line at a driver's license facility in the middle of the day when two men would approach him and start shooting, hitting him several times, which would eventually lead to his death after he was rushed to hospital.
Middle of the day, people was doing drills in the middle of the day, y'all. The middle of the day. It's
Meanwhile, the two assailants would escape in a getaway car, but would later ditch that car, attempting to carjack a Tesla, only to find themselves unable to figure out how to start it. The two men were soon arrested, and they would be identified as Matthew Givens and Cortez Hudson, who were better known in the streets as Lil Matt from OBN and Cortez from MTG 039.
To a crime alert now, two people have been charged in connection to a fatal shooting outside a driver's license facility in suburban Chicago. Matthew Givens of Lansing and Cortez Hudson of Oak Park were both denied bail. The men are charged with first-degree murder in the death of 21-year-old Juan Davis. Prosecutors say that Givens and Lansing were members of a street gang who targeted Davis because he was a member of a rival gang.
Their actions that day became even more absurd when it was revealed that Cortez's 6-year-old little brother was in the car with them when they arrived at the scene of the murder. The loss of big folks and gutter were a heavy burden to carry for 757, but unfortunately, they weren't the only ones who lost their lives in 2021. But eventually, 2022 would roll around, and finally, Tay Savage the Bully would be released back onto the streets of Welch World. And it wouldn't take him long to realize that with his reputation in the streets, in the modern era of gangster rap and drill music, his backstory would be irresistible to fans of violent drill music. And he would begin his transformation from Trigger Happy Tay to Tay Savage, the rap star.
Okay. The returning riot, Tay Savage, rap game bully.
Tay Savage would later speak on his time in jail, calling it a blessing that helped him see who were the real people in his life.
Guys, this video would probably be an hour long, so yeah, it'll probably be only 4 parts, maybe 5.
That like a blessing. That time I look at it like a blessing, you know, because I was out here the whole time. There's a lot of people around me hating or, you know, funny feelings. Or that time it let me see a lot of people like you know, they say time reveal all. So it let me. I learned that now I'm watching, I'm paying attention, you know. So that time really was a blessing. I came out on top. I feel like I was fighting 2 bodies and a carjacking. You know what I'm saying? I did 8 years off that. That was a blessing.
Tay had truly been blessed to go from fighting 2 murders and an attempted robbery to being a free man once again after only 8 years and 9 months in prison. Tay would be released from jail on March the 18th, 2022, and announcing that he was back on Instagram. And Tay's ops from 757 would react to his release, telling him to come there and alluding to plans to have him killed. With Tay clapping back, saying,
after all those years and they still wanted him gone, bro.
He made the 757, a possible reference to the murder of Snoop, which led to the formation of 757, made up of the 3 sets, the Av, the Rock Boys, and Lawless many years before. Now, despite his back and forth with his ops, in the year of 2022, when Tay was released, he didn't let anyone scare him from getting back to his...
Alright guys, that's it for part 3. I'll see you on part 4. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, man. I will be back with part 4. Let's get it.